Welcome to the Powerful Marketing Tips podcast. I'm your host, Mari-Liis, and today we are solving a problem that haunts most marketers and entrepreneurs. Why do we sometimes feel like something, maybe even invisible, is tripping us up, even when our strategy maybe is perfect? So my guest today is Lin Schussler-Williams, and she is a pattern breaker and super connector who helps people get out of their own way. So, Lin, you say that most of us are running our programming that isn't even ours. That is such a powerful statement. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. Yeah. And it's so true. We have these filters that we see. It's like if I took my clear glasses off and put my sunglasses on, I would be looking at the same world, but it would look different. The colors would be different. The shading would be different, right? And so it's like we're wearing filters in these subconscious programs. We get them from, all of us have them. Our first programmers are our parents, right? They teach us things when we're little to keep us safe. They're well-meaning programmers, like hold hands and look both ways before you cross the street. That serves a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old really well, but it's a program that may or may not really be necessary later on. And some of the programs we get stand in our way in really substantial ways, in ways that one doesn't, right? Can't ever hurt to hold hands and look both ways when you cross the street.
Wow, that's interesting. And Lin, your work with you call it Lucid Sequence and pattern breaking, right? It sounds very deep, but let's be honest, to a results-oriented CEO or, a stressed marketer, it might come across as soft or even maybe fluff. So please tell us more about it.
Yes. First of all, you should know that I spent 15 years as a sales coach for coaches, consultants, solopreneurs, and executives. And every one of them had things that got in their way. It's how I ended up being a sales coach. I got certified as a transformational coach. And then I was in a mastermind with all my friends who were also coaches and doing transformational work. And they would say to me, how are you getting all these clients? Well, I had a sales and marketing background and they didn't. They were ex-teachers and ministers and social workers and HR executives and things that in roles where they either didn't sell or were taught that it would be unethical to, right? A minister or a social worker can't sell transformation. That would be unethical. And so they were stuck with these embedded subconscious programs that got in their way. And whatever we choose in business and in life, if we're choosing it through those filters that don't belong to us, we're not going to choose well. So we may have all the marketing expertise in the world, but if we are choosing our tactics and our strategy and our branding and all of that through these filters of what I should do according to someone else instead of from our own authentic decision making, then those tactics and those strategies and those branding decisions are never going to work for us. So it's a powerful piece of fluff, if you look at it that way, right?
Well, can you give us a concrete example of how this, I don't know, a hidden subconscious pattern shows up as a leak, maybe in a company's, sales pipeline or a failed marketing, I don't know, ROI? I mean, how does that look like in a Monday morning sales meeting?
Well, I'll give you an example from my life. Back in the day when I worked in corporate America and I was in a sales role and I was a middle-aged woman, right? In a room full of men. I was in an industry that was almost all men. And in that Monday morning meeting, it was quite common for me to be the only woman in the room of 12 or 13 people. I also had times when I was a speaker early on, and I spoke to a national sales convention for a heating and cooling company, and I was the only I was one of two women in a room of about 150 people, about half of whom were old enough to be my father. So you can imagine in situations like that, all kinds of programming comes up. How do you behave, in a man's world if you're a woman? How do you, right? And my generation of women, that's all there was a man's world, right? There were very few companies run by women. There were very few. So lots of programming came up about they must be smarter than me. They're older than me. They must be smarter than me. Forget the fact they're men. Most of them were old enough to be my parent. So lots of programming about respect your elders and, you should always let the more experienced person have their say. Well, if that's how you're programmed, then you're going to miss opportunities to contribute. Your company is, women are 51% of the population. And if those women are running on old programs about, I should be quiet, even men get the program as children. Children should be seen and not heard, right? It's not okay to speak up. I have clients all the time who are afraid to speak up in meetings because they're running an old program from childhood that's something like children should be seen and not heard, or it's not polite to contradict someone. Whereas in a business setting, you want your people empowered to contribute, to bring up great ideas, to marketing, for goodness sakes. If we don't have new good ideas, it falls flat very quickly. So there's just one example of, we're running programs that don't really belong to us and don't serve us anymore.
And I see where it comes, really. I can feel that as a woman myself, too. I'm working
Yes.
also with a lot of CEOs and so on. So I'm just thinking, if in that situation, if I'm now recognizing that, oh my God, I have this pattern here, what should I do? How can I overcome it?
Well, the very first thing to understand is that awareness is the beginning of all transformation. So just becoming aware is so important. And, people surprise me all the time, even people who have done this work for a while, this lucid sequence work. I had a client this weekend who has done it a lot, and she said something and I said something back. And it was one of those aha moments where she was just like, I cannot believe I never saw that before. And so it is true that each of us has within us everything you need to do the work of removing those subconscious barriers and those subconscious filters. But no one's taught us how yet. And the first step is awareness. So learning about what does programming really mean and what does conditioning mean, because it isn't always what someone said to us. Right? Programming comes from an outside source. People, friends, parents, teachers, bosses, right? All the people in our lives, spouses, say things to us, and some of those things stick and become an embedded subconscious belief. But it's also society. What does it mean to be a woman in business? What does it mean to be a CEO? Like lots of times people, men and women, get promoted to a level because they were good at what they did and now they're not prepared to be in management or in C-suite, right? They've never been there before. So what does it mean to be there? Can be something that they've received from not someone saying something so much, but from social norms, right? Social programming, we call it. And then there's more of that life experience. Things happen. And when they happen repeatedly in our lives, they become the lesson that says, when this happens, this happens. It's the classical conditioning. We've all heard of the Pavlov's dog experiment, where you ring the bell and feed the dog and ring the bell and feed the dog. And eventually the dog salivates when there's no food because you just ring the bell. And that's conditioning, and we all do that to ourselves too. So just the first step is really becoming aware of where you are living through programming and conditioning.
I have a feeling that we do live through those programmings like every moment, pretty much,
Yeah.
right? Even, it might come from yesterday's, I don't know, meetings or,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yes,
So,
that's so important to say, Mari-Liis, because, we think of it all as coming from childhood, traumatic events in our childhood. It can be
mhm,
last week. It can be
mhm.
yesterday. Somebody says something and it lands for you in a way, and all of a sudden it becomes this filter that you're looking at yourself and the world through, but it's not yours.
Now, when I have this awareness, how to help myself in these like situations, in that meeting on a Monday morning we discussed,
Yeah.
I can't just throw away all my feelings and just
No.
act differently. So what's the next
No.
step?
And we have a multi-billion-dollar industry called personal development and
Mm-hmm.
mindset, right? And in that industry, we have been taught lots of programs about how to handle those situations. And some of them are helpful in those moments, right? We've been taught, I bet lots of our listeners have been taught positive thinking or affirmations, right? And in that moment, in that meeting, taking a deep breath is a powerful tool. Taking a nice deep breath and reaching for the positive thought that's the opposite of whatever's going on, right, can help in that moment. It's not going to deprogram anything, though. That program is still going to be there. That filter is still going to be there until you are out of the situation and you can deal with it. But having those techniques of mindset are so important. It's why every Olympic athlete will tell you breathing, visualizing, right? They all see themselves on the gold medal platform. But if that were enough, they'd all be on the gold medal platform, right? And that can't be. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Visualizing is not enough. Affirming is not enough, but it is something that can help you get through that moment. Lucid Sequence is the process that I teach that shows people how to get out of it permanently, but we also have to live through those moments to get to where we can do that. And especially in group settings, it can be as simple as take a nice deep breath and
Mm-hmm.
calm your nervous system so that you can think more clearly
Mm-hmm.
and get through the moment. Think of the right thing to say, that sort of thing.
So before even doing anything, it's after the awareness really comes the mindset, right? So you should breathe. Breathing always helps,
Breathe.
and use
Always
different
breathe.
mindset techniques. So I really love that you bring that up because in my book, The Greatest Marketer, I also
Yes.
talk about how the first step to become great in marketing
Yeah.
is the first step is mindset, meaning that,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
same way they teach, or not they don't teach, they tell us when we are on the plane that we should put the air mask first to ourselves, then we can help
Absolutely.
others. And the same applies, I can see everywhere in our lives, let's be
Yes.
honest.
Yes. It's so true, Mari-Liis. And, I will say this, the thinking tool that I taught even before I understood how to teach Lucid Sequence
Mm-hmm.
is I wrote a book about 11 years ago. That's a thinking tool. It is called 9 Little Words to Change Your Results. And the phrase that would be most helpful is the first phrase of the 9 little words. 9 little words, it's 3 phrases, 3 words each. And the first one
Mm-hmm.
is up until now. So if you're in that meeting and you're panicking because they're calling on people randomly and you're afraid they're going to call on you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're having some kind of thought about, you're breaking out into a sweat, you're getting nervous. You could say to yourself, up until now, I've been really nervous about getting called on, but I know what I'm doing, right? I'm good at this. That's why I'm here. You can just have that little pep talk. And up until now does 2 things. It interrupts the old pattern of thinking. It says that is how it's been. It's the antidote to affirmations
Mm-hmm.
because affirmations can feel like you're just lying to yourself. But
Mm-hmm.
up until now interrupts that old pattern of thinking and says that it was like that, but now it's going
Mm-hmm.
to be different. right? And so you can, up until now, the second phrase is, I am willing. So what are you willing to do about it? I'm willing to remember I'm good at this. I'm willing to be calm when they call me. I'm willing to just take a breath right here, right now. And the last phrase is the one that seals the deal, is just no matter what, whether they call me or not, right? Whatever it is. So tools like that, thinking tools, help us in the moment and in the moment of awareness. But you can't, this is so important, you can't think your way out of a embedded subconscious program, conditioned response, belief, filter. It just won't do it. Even my book.
So it feels to me like we are calming ourselves down with these sentences.
In the moment.
Up until now, I'm willing to, and no matter what. I love it. And that just reminded me that I had a coach from the States who taught that when we talked about me being nervous when I'm going on the stage to speak. And I remember the sentence I learned from him, from Rory Vaden, was that it's hard to be nervous when your heart is in service. And he always told me that, when I repeat that, then I repeat to myself that it's not about, me. I'm doing my best, putting myself out there and serving my audience. It's not about me, the way I look or the way, whatever I feel that they might think about me. So I think in these meetings, we also are too afraid of what our others will think about me, and also then let's add up the all the patterns we have. So it's it's such a hard feeling to be there in that meeting. Let's be honest.
A really common program, and often programs and conditioned responses go hand in hand. It might start as a program and turn into one of those things you prove to yourself over time through repeated conditioning. And a very common one is, it matters what other people think. Right? So our parents, in my case, it was my parents, well-meaning, trying to prepare me for the world. If I heard them say once, I heard them say 100,000 times, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And they meant well. They were trying to tell me, make sure you have on the right clothes for whatever, and make sure you brush your hair and brush your teeth and, whatever. Right. But what it turned into was a filter that said it matters what other people think, because the result of making a good first impression is knowing that it matters what other people think, or it matters what other people think more than what I think. Right? That's the real kicker. So then I get into business and I downplay my own opinions. I downplay my own knowledge or my own instinct, because it matters more what other people think than what I think. Right? And until I remove that filter, then I can't be fully myself. I can't shine. I can't show up with all of my talents because I'm putting some of them under a bushel.
I have a feeling that this is, most of us struggle with this, what others think of me if I do or say or
Absolutely. It's
act.
a very universal program. It's one that's pervasive in our society. So even if my parents hadn't said it, I probably would have gotten it from society in general. That's why it's one of the ones.
Yeah.
I also deal with business people who you look at them and you think they're so successful, but then you realize that almost everyone has some programming or conditioning or subconscious filters around worthiness, right? Some version of, am I worthy of holding this position? Am I worthy of creating the best marketing in the world? Am I worthy of publishing a book? Am I worthy of coaching other people, right? I see that there's some version of a worthiness program. And the simple one of other people's opinions matters more than mine is a worthiness.
Wow. 100% agree with you, because last year, I remember before launching my book, I felt that imposter syndrome. I was like, who am I to talk about, how to become the greatest marketer? Even though I have been there for 20 years and, helped these companies and so on. But still, I felt like, oh my God, maybe I shouldn't do that.
Right. And almost every author before they publish a book feels that. The question is it part of a pattern? Do you feel that when you do other things too? Or is it just when you do something big you've never done before? Maybe it's a one-off experience and not part of a pattern. But when it becomes part of a pattern, then it is likely the result of a program or a learned, conditioned response. And those things don't belong to you, and you can get rid of them.
I have a feeling we all need your help, Lynn. But but now I was just thinking, if I have a team member and I see that he or she has this pattern, and the problem with worthiness and everything we have discussed, can we help others when we see that others are holding some kind of patterns, or how should we act if we recognize that?
Well, I'll tell you this from personal experience too. People don't always like to have their programs and conditions pointed out to them.
Of course, that's why I'm asking.
Be very careful in that role, especially. Now, I will tell you this. I have a good friend who is a phenomenal business owner, has been a CEO of a large company, and is now coaching other entrepreneurs. Recently, she said to me, I am going to introduce you to one of my clients. Because as I worked with her, I became completely aware of this program that is stopping her cold in her tracks. And so I want her to come and see you and work with you to get rid of it. And the truth is, I'm not going to get rid of it. This is not what I do. I teach my clients to do it themselves. It is planned obsolescence on my part. It is absolutely 100%. We can all do this, just nobody's taught us how. So my mission is to teach everybody how that wants to learn how, because I know that the more people on the planet that learn to do this, the better off we'll be. We all make better decisions when we're clear of those filters, and we all enjoy life more. We get into less conflict. All kinds of things get better the more of those programs and conditions we get rid of. But so there was a coach who just this weekend introduced me to someone that she's working with because she recognized, this is standing in their way of business, right? She's coaching them on business, not on life coaching or, transformational work. So when it's an employee, it's a whole nother conversation. Just ask HR how complex that conversation can be. But when it is someone that we're in a helping role with, a serving role with, then it becomes a little easier to have those conversations.
Of course, yeah, I agree with you. And that's why I asked, because it's easier to notice maybe sometimes, from others that something is holding them back. But of course, I already recognize some things from my own as well. So I'm sure we all have them.
Notice others. You're so right to say that, Mari-Liis. It is definitely easier to point out in others than to see in ourselves. Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's really good. So we talked about when I now more aware that, I have this pattern or something is holding me back, and I'm doing all the techniques and I'm being calm and breathing and all of that. So coming back to that, let's say Monday meeting, again, in business, what I see very often, what the marketer says is rarely what the CEO hears, right? So how can we reprogram our communication so that marketing or, other topics can actually sound like, in the language of what other people are hearing? Because it's a really big issue. What I see, there's a lot of miscommunication around us.
There's so much, and it's difficult. Marketing is a source of programming in so many ways and so many times, right? Like if you just take the topic of food and you think about how advertising programs us to think about food. Just watch an American football game and watch the commercials during an American football game, and you will see that an entire society is programmed to eat pizza and drink beer during football, right? Like that's just part of the marketing that's happening in those ads. So, in the helping industry, which is, where I worked for 15 years as a sales coach with coaches and consultants and people who were out there trying to help. The marketing there, what we hear in that industry now is we want it to feel authentic. We want, it's not about how many layers does your sales funnel have, how many upsells do you have before they buy your high ticket coaching or whatever. It's about coming across as you. It's about coming across authentically as the person who's showing up willing to help. So it's just important for us to remember that marketing is both a source of programming, it's also the result of programming. We can't craft messages for the world. We can't craft messages for our businesses free of our own programming. It's going to come through no matter what. And when we're saying to people, I can't tell you the number of solopreneurs I've talked to who have a program running about it's not nice to ask for money. I always have to undercharge and overdeliver. These are programs somebody gave you that stop you from making a good decision about your own pricing, right? That stop you from saying the thing in your marketing that would make someone say, oh my gosh, I have to have that person on my team, right? I have to work with that person. When we're saying things from our programming, we're literally saying to people, don't work with me. Right.
I
And
know.
so
I
people
know.
take all these courses about how to write ads and how to do this and how to do that. And when they're doing it from their filters, they're never going to, it doesn't matter what techniques you're
But
like saying, don't work with me.
let's talk about balance, because I think we should all be responsible and ethical also at the same time here.
Absolutely. Sure.
So I'm sure that there are people who are, the other side of the coin.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
what are the patterns for them? I'm afraid they don't do.
Think about the movies that we've all seen about how are those unethical marketers and admin and all of that portrayed in the media, in movies and TV and stories, that's programming that's happening for the people who will then emulate those people. There's plenty of programming out there saying you'll never get ahead if you don't look out for number one, right? Only look out for yourself or you'll never get ahead, right? Somebody will always come along and take it first if you don't take it first, right? There's tons of programming out there like that supporting that behavior. Doesn't justify it, but it does help us understand.
So where can we find that balance? I'm just, worried about people now recognizing their patterns and maybe going crazy with it, the other side of it.
Well,
let's talk about side of it. That's my idea.
There's an old saying, and it's in every wisdom tradition around the world. There's some version of what goes around comes around, right? And the way I would say it is what you put out into the world, into the quantum energy field, you get back. Maybe not in the same way, maybe not at the same moment, but, So if we want to get back good, we have to put good out into the world. And that's right there, that thing, Dr. David R. Hawkins was a psychologist and a scientist and a researcher, and he created something called the map of consciousness, and he rated consciousness from existence up to what you and I might call enlightenment, and in between, and it goes from 0 to 1,000, in between at 200 and below is like anger, guilt, all the lower feelings. 500 is the frequency of pure love. And he said that the reason humanity has not imploded the world yet is because one person calibrated at pure love 500 counterbalances 750,000 people at 200 or below. 1,000 people at
Oh
200 or
my
below.
God.
So when you think of that, like, I feel like we should be screaming that from the rooftops to inspire people to do well, right? Because if everybody ends up in greed, in anger, in rage, in all those 200 and below places, then our existence won't last. And we see that as modern, people. We see that. And we see things like anxiety in the workplace, anxiety in our families. I have 3 children who today range in age from 22 to 30, and they have grown up with more anxiety than I ever knew existed when I was their age. And I believe it's because there are billions more of us on the planet who are all having, these worrisome thoughts and, what are we doing to the world, and creating a collective consciousness that is operating like a soup we're all swimming in at a higher level of anxiety than has ever existed before. So if we want to be the antidote to that, then we have to reach for the 500 ourselves every chance we get. And that means
Wow.
helping people in our businesses. That means doing well. That means creating marketing that serves the good, that helps people get to what they need, not just sells more necessarily. And that's not a very popular view when it comes to big business, right? But I don't care.
Yeah, most people are out, they're after quick wins and all of
Yeah.
that. So that's a pity, but I'm with
And the
you.
programming and conditioning supports that.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I also am a big believer of what goes around comes around. So, so I also believe that it all coming back to you, sooner or later.
Right.
But
And someone could say to me, well, what goes around comes around is a program too. Absolutely. And when you clear it, then you can choose it or not from your authentic space.
I want to choose it. I like it.
Yeah.
Even though
Yeah.
it's my programming. Sorry.
Right. It doesn't matter that it is. So if you cleared the program, you'd still choose it most likely, right? Clearing a program doesn't mean you won't choose the same thing anyway. It means you'll choose it from your authentic self instead of from the program.
Well, I would love to talk about that more and more, but first of all, please tell to our listeners, where is the best place they can find you, learn about what you do, and even connect with you online?
Absolutely. So Lucid, Lucid, Sequence, SEQUENCE.com, lucidsequence.com is my website. And you'll see at the top of that page, there's a little video that's less than 5 minutes that tells my story. And it's an interesting story. People keep saying to me, somebody needs to make a movie about it because my life was threatened as a child by organized crime. And so it's a wow kind of story. Even if you're not interested in Lucid Sequence, you might want to go there and listen to that story.
Okay, thank you. But is there a channel where you are most active yourself if people want to connect with you as well?
LinkedIn is a great place to connect with me. I also run a community of women on that lives on Facebook and Zoom called the Wise Women Collective, and that's also free and open to all women. And you can find it at wisewomencollectivehq.com. So,
how would you wrap it up to our listeners right now? Because we have gone through quite many things already, and I know that you have a very practical giveaway also for our listeners. So please share.
Sure. So I would say the thing I want to say to wrap up for them is just remember that your freedom doesn't come from trying harder. Your freedom doesn't come from doing whatever everybody told you to do. It comes from clearing what was never yours to carry. And then you can really shine and do your thing. And I have a kind of a self-assessment tool. It's called Revealing Hidden Patterns, the Tree of Programs and Conditions. And it's just a little 4-page PDF style document that walks you through a self-assessment of how to identify your own hidden patterns and your own programs and conditions. And it's a lot of fun. It's at treeofprograms.com, and they can download it from there.
It sounds interesting. I want to download it myself as well. I just saw it today. So,
Yeah.
but last but not least, please share an inspiring song and a quote, and maybe some comments. Why do they inspire you, so that we can also use them in our channels?
The quote, I just said part of the quote. It's to remember that, effort doesn't make success. And that freedom really comes from clearing what was never yours. That's the thing I say over and over and over and over and over every time I speak. It's the quote that lands. And because freedom comes from clearing what was never yours, the song that has it's always the song that when it comes on, I have to stop what I'm doing and enjoy it and maybe dance and and it's called Freedom. It's by John Batiste, and it's a great song, and he's a great artist. And so if you want a song to get pumped up before that Monday morning meeting, that's it.
Well, thank you. We will add it to our Spotify list because we have a list of songs that our guests have given us. Yeah, it's very inspiring.
Well, I also produce the Be More Conference for Women, which is a twice-a-year global virtual conference for women. And we have a Spotify playlist too. And the rules of our Spotify playlist are no whiny victim love songs and no songs that make women look stupid.
These are good rules. Oh my God, I love them. I should also come up with rules. But I think all our songs are very nice songs.
Yeah, that's right.
So
they're
so
the ones
far,
your speakers are picking to inspire, so they'll be good. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Lin, for joining us today.
Thank
It was
you.
really, eye-opening also for me. And I love how you talk about not putting too much effort in. It's more about becoming free, because we also talk about how to work smarter, not harder. So it aligns really well with what we also share.
And that whole thing about effort, there's a whole series of programs around work hard. And those are just programs somebody taught us.
Oh, thank you so much for your time, for your insights.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in today. And we'll see you inside the Powerful Marketers Hub. Stay empowered and stay aligned.